Tush Ashachitha cha Vanghe Ush Dizdau Maningo Shaute Nanam Angyus Mazdai Shatrem Chai Ahurai Aim Drigobyo Dadatabastarahem Ashem Vahu Bahishtam Basti Usta Asti Usta Ahmai Yadeshai Bahishtai Hashem Sarosh Yazadni Panaho Joji. Thank you.
Thank you, Franny. We now have the Christian prayer by Ramesh.
Thanks, Sajani. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
We now have Mr. Gulu Advani, the Sikh prayer.
Gunka Satnam Karta Purkh Nirbhav Nirvair Akal Murat Joni Saibang Gur Prasad Jap Ad Sach Jugad Sach Hai Bhi Sach Nanak Ho Se Bhi Sach Soche Soch Na Hovai Je Soche Lakhwar Chuppe Chup Na Hovai Je Lai Raha Livatar Bukhiya Bukh Na Utri Je Banna Puriya Bhar Sahasyara Palak Hovai Ta Ik Na Chale Naal Kiv Sachiara Hoye Kiv Kure Tute Pal ਹੁਕਮ ਰਜ਼ਾਈ ਚੱਲਣਾ ਨਾਨਕ ਲਿਖਿਆ ਨਾਲ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਦਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਦੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਬੋਲੇ ਸੋ ਨਿਹਾਲ ਸਤਿ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ
Thanks, Gulu. Jasmine, would you like to say the Muslim prayer?
Yeah, sure, I will. May I start? Allahu Akbar, Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Allahumma salli Allah Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin wa barik wassalam. Thank you.
I now request Mr. Janaki Ram to kindly introduce our speaker.
Good evening. I welcome Dr. Nagesh and all the participants. For those of you who are regular attendees of webinars in meditation and study circle and other spiritual groups, we know Dr. Nagesh is a very good speaker. And Dr. Nagesh Lakshminarayan is a Bachelor of Dentist Science in 1986 and passed his MD in Dental Science in 92 from Government Dental College, Bangalore. He is currently professor and head in Dayananda Sagar College. In fact, he just short of 4 out of century. He has published more than 96 national and international publications, and we wish him soon to score a century in that. Of course, those of you who have listened to him know how good a speaker and facilitator he is. So it's no wonder that he has conducted and he has been called for several hundreds of lectures and workshops. He is a very lifelong learner and he has recently done PG diploma in health professions education from University of Illinois. He has also served as a member of expert committee of World Health Organization. He has actually written a book, a handbook called What, Why, and How of Journal Clubs, giving the methodology for critical evaluation of a scientific article. It is widely used by faculty and students, so it's a very noble service he has done. Naturally, a person of such record, it is no wonder that he has won several awards and recognitions. He is also a member of Theosophical Society and has been giving number of lectures in various Theosophical Society meetings all over the country. And we are eagerly looking forward to a very important topic, what is spirituality? So, and knowing his background and proficiency in all these subjects, I am sure he will come whenever possible, often to School of Ancient Wisdom and talk on different topics. I hand over to Sajani now.
So much, Mr. Janaki Ram. And now it's over to you, Dr. Nagesh.
Very happy to
Thank
have
you
Dr.
so much. Thank you so much. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Oh. ईश्वरः परमः कृष्ण सच्चिदानन्दविग्रह अनादिरादिर्गोविन्द सर्वकारणकारणम् भोक्तारां यज्ञतपसां सर्वलोकमहेश्वरम् सुहृदं सर्वभूतानां ज्ञात्वा मां शान्तिमृच्छति. I render my prostrations at the causeless cause of all and rootless root of all. I place my salutations at the feet of all the liberated masters. I render my salutations to the divinity which is innate and inherent in all of us. Thank you so much, School of Ancient Wisdom, the organizers of this webinar program, Mrs. Sajani, Mrs. Janaki Ram, Mrs. Malati, and Mrs. Swati Maya, who was in constant touch with me and facilitating this particular communication between School of Ancient Wisdom and myself. And I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very glad to be here amongst you. In fact, I was introduced to School of Ancient Wisdom around 15 to 16 years back by my mentor, Mr. S. Krishnamurthy. I attended a couple of workshops there which were organized by Mr. S. Krishnamurthy and also Dr. Uma Krishnamurthy. I delivered few lectures also during those occasions. I remember those days. I stayed there for a couple of days also, and it was a very splendid experience. You have a really very spiritually rich environment. It can rejuvenate and it can energize any person who can stay there for a couple of hours. So thank you very much for taking care of School of Ancient Wisdom and organizing such wonderful programs. With this, a lengthy introduction was given about me by Mr. Janaki Ram. I'm thankful to him. My only request is from next time onwards, you can cut it short and just say I'm basically a dentist by profession, and I'm a teacher, and I'm working as a professor. That should be enough. And with this request to Mr. I didn't get that name. I'm sorry. To Mr. The person who introduced it just slipped my mind. Okay. And coming back to the Mr. Janaki Ram. Mr. Janaki Ram, I'm really sorry the name slipped basically because I was actually listening to him for the first time today. So I was not sure of his name, although I could get his name in the first moment. I couldn't get it on the second moment. It's okay. Thank you so much for reminding me about his name. Okay, with this, let's move on with the discourse today or satsang today. Hope I am given 1 hour time. If I'm overshooting, please alert me. I'll definitely cut short and I'll try to concise and finish it off. If you can give me time up to 7:15, I don't mind going ahead till 7:15. If you think it has to be cut short by 7 o'clock, sorry, if it has to be cut short by 7:45 or so, I will try to do that. Okay.
Go ahead, sir. We
Okay,
can cut
okay.
down the question and answer. So you go
Okay.
ahead.
No, please let me know. It's your discretion. You can feel free to actually stop me at any moment and raise the questions also. Okay, I welcome it actually. So the topic for today's discussion is, what is spirituality? This is probably a fundamental question. Fundamental question. A question which we need to answer. A question which we need to pose to ourselves. All of us are sadhaks. Many of us are seriously pursuing spiritual sadhana. But at times, the depth of understanding with respect to what is spirituality looks to be less than what is required. In fact, I remember those days when I was doing my undergraduation in Government Dental College, way back in the year 1983, there was a subject called Preventive and Social Medicine for us. P&SM it is called as an acronym. In Preventive and Social Medicine, we were introduced to the concept that man is an integrated being. He is a physical being, a mental being, a social being, and a spiritual being. The word spiritual figured in the mainstream medical book. I was surprised. All of us know very clearly we are physical beings because our body is made of matter and we are visible. We are mental beings because day in and day out, we do carry our emotions and thoughts. We have a mind of our own, and the mind keeps producing a lot of thoughts and emotions. We are social beings because we live in a society and we do socialize and we have several social networks. And we cannot live isolated. So we are social beings, no doubt about it. But what is the spiritual being which was discussed in the book? It was intriguing. And when I opened that particular page where the spiritual being was explained a bit in detail, I was surprised to read that spiritual dimension is a dimension which transcends human psychology and human physiology. And it is beyond the state of art of explanation. This was a sentence which was given in the book. Spiritual dimension transcends human psychology and human physiology, and it is beyond the state of art of explanation. So that made the whole issue much more intriguing because it was not so clear. But the concept of spiritual being was admitted to mainstream medical science. and given a due place in the wonderful textbook of P&SM, which is prescribed for all the medical students. And that's how I developed some interest in spirituality. And over a period of time, I just got inducted into spirituality through Theosophical Society. But the question still haunts me. What is spirituality basically? It is not yet answered. I'll try to answer what is spirituality through an anecdote. A wonderful anecdote, a short story. It's beautifully given in a book called The Prayer of the Frog, a beautiful book written by Anthony de Mello. That book is an eye-opener, a collection of wonderful anecdotes. And every anecdote is so nice, meaningful, and insightful. So let me try to narrate the anecdote. The master was asked, what is spirituality? So somebody asked the master, Master, what is spirituality? Master closed his eyes in silence and said, spirituality is that which succeeds in bringing one to inner transformation. So whatever brings inner transformation in you is spirituality. That's what the master meant. But the disciple had the next question. Master, if I apply the traditional methods handed down by the masters so far, is that not spirituality? Whatever has been taught to me in my religion, whatever is taught to me by my gurus, if I start practicing it, is it not spirituality? That was the second question, a follow-up question which was asked by the disciple. Master immediately said, it is not spirituality if it does not perform its function for you. A blanket is no longer a blanket if it cannot keep you warm. So, the insight here is spirituality is not same for everybody. Whatever brings inner transformation in you, that is spirituality. Different people transform in their life after different kinds of experiences. Ramana saw the spiritual power in the hillock of Tiruvannamalai, isn't it? So the hillock itself transformed him from inside. Swami Vivekananda got transformed the moment he came into contact with Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. That brought an inner transformation in him. Whatever brings inner transformation, maybe a person, maybe a deity, maybe a book, maybe a scripture, maybe an incident that happened in life, whatever brings inner transformation in you, that is spirituality. So a blanket is no longer a blanket if it does not keep you warm. I hope you agree with me. So the very next question asked to the master was, so master, do you think spirituality does change? And the master answered, yes, people change and needs change. So what was spirituality once is probably spirituality no more. What generally goes under the name of spirituality is merely the record of past methods. And he said, don't cut the person to fit the coat. Cut the coat to fit the person. It's a very, very insightful anecdote, very powerful anecdote, and very penetrating anecdote. Don't cut the person to fit the coat. Cut the coat to fit the person. So, what goes in the name of spirituality is many times the esoteric rituals of the religion. Esoteric rituals. Probably rituals constitute not even 5% of your spirituality. In reality, rituals is just the skin which you need to crack and get insight. Spirituality is not theory. It is fully practicals. How much a person knows is less important. How much he is practicing and how much he has adopted in life is more important. So spirituality is practical in its applications. Mahatma Gandhi wisely said, spirituality not in practice is a sin. Teaching, preaching, spirituality is far easier. But really internalizing, adopting, practicing, and being with it in day-to-day life is the practical spirituality. And of course, that is the only spirituality which is probably true spirituality. Spirituality is all about how you relate to yourself, how you relate to every other person, how you relate to the rest of the world, and how you relate to God. Somebody asked Jiddu Krishnamurti or Krishnaji, what is life? Krishnaji said, life is nothing but relations. The moment a life is born, it'll start relating to rest of world. And the whole life, we live relating to the world. So, what is life? Nothing but relations. And spirituality is all about how are we striking relation with our own selves, with every other selves who are living along with us in the world, with the rest of the world, with the inanimate world, with the nature, and with the God. A spiritually enlightened person is totally at peace with oneself. To such a person, the chaos and turmoil born out of worldly desires look trivial. This is the characteristic sign of a spiritually oriented person. For him, the worldly affairs are trivial. He doesn't attach too much value to mundane things. In his life, he knows that there are several things and issues which are beyond material, which are more spiritual, and they're more important. And for him, the worldly things are of no importance. Spiritual enlightenment is the highest form of spiritual wisdom. Having said that, a spiritual person is free of any inner conflict. Please understand. I said the spiritual person has a characteristic peaceful nature. He is at peace with himself, with the rest of the world. So equipoised and equanimous. How come so many attributes? And what do they signify? They signify that the person is devoid of any internal conflict. Any internal conflict. You just pick up any person in the world who is leading a worldly life. He has several conflicts. He leads a life of external discord and internal conflict. A life which is full of outer discord and inner conflict. Conflicts are of different kinds. First order conflict, the conflict with our own inner selves. The second order conflict with our own kith and kin. Third order conflict with the rest of the world. And fourth order conflict probably with the spirit inside. So there are multiple kinds of conflicts. And the moment there is conflict, there is so much turmoil inside. When there is so much turmoil, how can the person be peaceful? It's only a person who has advanced in sadhana, a person who is seriously pursuing spiritual sadhana can maintain peace with himself at all times. A peaceful person is a spiritual person, and that's what spirituality is all about. If you can be peaceful, you start suffusing the same peace to everyone else in the world, and the whole world becomes peaceful. This is the journey on which we have embarked. Although the goal is remote, the objectives are far nearer. We can focus on the objectives, and at least we can start working in that direction. Such a person is in total acceptance with everything that is and as it is. Total acceptance is another very, very important characteristic of a spiritual person. Whatever comes in his way, he'll just welcome it. Non-resistance. Absolutely no opposition from his side, whether good or bad, whether praise or curse, whether right or wrong, whether pleasure or pain. He'll simply accept and embrace it as it is. It's not so easy. It's a sadhana of many years. And this is what happened to Jesus on cross. When Jesus was crucified on cross, he was going through a lot of pain, a lot of pain. And at one moment, he said, Father, thy will be done, not mine. Father, let your will be done, not my will. That's symbolic of total surrender from the side of Jesus. Before saying this, he said, Father, why have you forsaken me? Why did you let me down? That means to say, he is not in alignment with total acceptance of whatever came in his way. The moment he said, thy will be done and not mine, he precisely aligned with the will of God and he attained salvation. So spirituality is all about being in that particular mindset where you are receiving anything and everything that is on your way. A lot of spirituality that we have come across most of the times is esoteric religion and religious practices. Like going to temples, going to churches, going to masjids, going to gurudwaras. Of course, I don't say don't go. Who am I to say that? I'm nobody to say that. Yes, one can go, but they're less important unless they bring in inner transformation in the person. A person may be going to temple or a masjid or a gurdwara for several days, devoutly, piously, with all the shraddha or fervor, what you say. But if that doesn't bring in an inner transformation in him, and if that doesn't incite the human in him and the divine in him, and he continues to be an animal in the human form, then probably it's no spirituality. Probably that is not the place where he can learn spirituality or experience spirituality. All spirituality is how we live our lives, how we interact with others, and how we relate to God. Three important milestones in life. How we live our lives. This is very close to us. How far we introspect impartially. We do introspect at times, but how impartial we are when we are introspecting. Most of the times we are biased. We are preconditioned. We look at our lives from our own lens that we have created. And how we interact with others, that is the next milestone. And the last one, how we relate to the God. Many of us consider synonymous the terms religious, pious, devout, and spiritual. A person may be seemingly outwardly religious, but is he or she truly spiritual? A religious person may or may not be spiritual. If the religious person is practicing only the esoteric part of the religion, stuck to rituals, and has not transcended the barrier of rituals, and even those rituals with blind belief he is practicing, then probably he is not into the core of spirituality. And I can say the spiritual transformation has not yet begun. A person might have by hearted the Bhagavad Gita, or the Bible or the Grantha Sahib. He knows every verse of these scriptures. That doesn't mean to say he's spiritual. At best, we can say he's an esoteric religious person. True religion also takes you beyond these rituals, scriptures, and all, and transform him. A hypocrite may be praying on his knees on Sunday and praying on his neighbors on Monday. Please understand this sentence. A hypocrite is a person who has double standards. He is praying in the church on his knees on Sunday, but he is praying on the neighbors on Monday. So what is the fun in going to church then, or to temple, or to masjid, or to gurdwara? We see a lot of people visiting these holy places, so-called holy places. But how many of them have really transformed inside? This is a big question. Unless such a thing happens, the person is said to be superficially religious, but definitely not spiritual. A sincerely spiritual person will not exhibit such a dichotomy between his beliefs and his life in the outer world. A sincerely spiritual person will practice what he believes. His inner and outer are integrated. He doesn't have a conflict between inner and outer. He practices what he believes. It's not just a belief that he visits some holy places and come back. Most of the times, for name's sake, we do these pilgrimages. But by the time you come back from a pilgrimage, how much you have transformed, how much I have transformed, I need to question it. If I don't question it, and by the time I come back from pilgrimage, I have brought tons of noise in my mind, the whole pilgrimage is an utter failure and it goes down the drain. It goes down the drain. For such a person, the inner and outer are one and the same. See, although I am trying to explain, trying to describe the essence of spirituality, in reality, spirituality is something which one cannot teach to others, because it is something which is innate in all of us. No need to teach. The spirit which has enlivened us is dwelling very much within us and without us. The God is immanent and transcendent. Both. The God dwells inside and dwells outside. So the spirit which dwells inside is nothing but a speck of the God. So spirituality is nothing something which we need to teach. What I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to place some views about it. And what goes in the name of spirituality? Is it true spirituality? Somebody asked a master, "Sir, you say spirituality cannot be taught, but you keep talking so many things about spirituality." And then the teacher took the disciple to the open field and showed a bird on the tree and said, "Look at that bird. Is it singing?" He asked. The disciple said, "Yes, master, the bird is singing." "Why is it singing?" "It is singing because it has a song." It is singing because it has a song. Similarly, you are a spirit. You have basically the attributes of spirituality within you, and it need not be taught. It's your innate and inherent nature. It is only that we should awaken. We have forgotten the spirit inside. We are so lost in the outer world. Krishnaji wisely said, the world is too much in you. There is nothing wrong that you are in the world, but there's everything wrong if the world is within you. You should not. D.V. Gundappa or D.V.G., a Kannada poet, a great philosopher, a literator, a wonderful human being. He writes a beautiful kagga. In that kagga he says, ಎರಡು ಕೋಣೆಗಳ ಮಾಡು ನೀ ಮನದ ಆಲಯದಿ ಹೊರ ಕೋಣೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಲೋಗರಾಟಗಳ ನಾಡು ವಿರಮಿಸೊಬ್ಬನೆ ಮೌನದೊಳ ಮನೆಯ ಶಾಂತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ವರ ಯೋಗ ಸೂತ್ರವಿದು ಮಂಕುತಿಮ್ಮ ಎರಡು ಕೋಣೆಗಳ ಮಾಡು ನೀ ಮನದಾಲಯದಿ. Make two chambers in your mind, outer and the inner. Play all your roles as a worldly being in the outer chamber. But the moment you get a bit of time or make time and slip into the inner chamber, that's your private chamber. That's your inner. That is where your spirit dwells. That's where your God dwells. Please slip into the inner chamber and enjoy the peace inside. And that is the Vara Yoga Sutra Vidu. That is the formula for yoga. That is yogic life. So that means to say, we need to do what all we are supposed to do because we have born in this plane. We are born in this plane, born on this plane, whatever the way you try to understand. We have some duties and responsibilities, obligations we need to fulfill, but not all the time. Start slipping into the inner chamber, which is your private chamber. That's where you and your God are in dialogue with each other. And the dialogue is not a verbal dialogue. The dialogue is a silence dialogue. We can best understand about spirituality by understanding what it is not instead of what it is. Trying to explain what it is probably has some limitations. But if we understand what it is not, we may develop an insight so that we may intuitively know what it is. Have you heard of Mullah Nasruddin's anecdotes? I have one for you, which is an eye-opener. Really an eye-opener. So, once Mullah Nasruddin was standing in front of his house and his neighbor, he called him out and said, Mullah, I long to learn spirituality. He openly called Mullah and said, would you come over to my house and teach me spirituality? Mullah did not answer. Neither Mullah did go to his house because Mullah was very sure that the man has a spark of intelligence and intellect which is quite capable of providing him a spiritual insight if he just makes an effort. So Mullah was very sure that this particular person definitely doesn't require any aid from my side. He's not trying to learn on his own. And spirituality is self-directed learning, SDL. We call SDL in educational philosophy. So he did not go to help him out. And Mullah also knew that Probably this man, his neighbor, has a delusion that mysticism can be transmitted, which is wrong. So this is something again wrong. Mysticism cannot be transmitted unless until the disciple is ready. And it has its own limitations. A person has to first get ready. Then the master appears. There is a wonderful saying in theosophical literature. When the disciple is ready, the master will appear. Until the disciple is ready, the master will never appear. So we need to make efforts. These satsangs probably facilitate, but ultimately it is you who need to dwell inside. Get into the silent sanctuary of yours. Converse with the God inside and engage in a silent dialogue and blend with the Almighty. So Mullah knew that this person has a wrong delusion. So he did not go and he did not help him. Some days later, the neighbor was standing on the same neighbor was standing on the roof of his house, and he cried out or called out, Mullah, I need your help to blow my fire. The embers are going out. Mullah, my fire is just getting quenched. My fire is disappearing. I want your help to blow my fire. The embers are going out. Means the hot coal, charcoal, is getting off. I need your help. Immediately Mullah said, why, of course, my breath is there at your disposal. And come over to my house and you can have as much of it as you can take away. So with this, the anecdote, what is the meaning? The meaning is spirituality is not hot embers. Neither spirituality is not something which mullah or anybody can just pass it on to others. We can't give it like the cash that we give to others. It is something which needs to be learned. Spirituality is all about self-directed learning. One has to learn on his own. That is exactly the reason that our sages and saints used to live alone, wander alone, and do penance alone. Because it's a flight of alone to alone. Have you heard of this particular maxim? Flight of alone, small letter alone, to alone, capital letter alone. Small letter alone is my outer self, and the capital letter alone is my innermost self, that is the Lord within me. Lord within me. Unfortunately, we forget this inner journey. We are so occupied in the outer journey, and at the cost of inner journey, we waste our time, we waste our life, and we advance to old age, and then we realize the mistake that we did. Okay, let's try understand what is spirituality. A person was converted to Christianity newly. Say around 2 to 3 months back, he was converted. He was walking on a road. He met a friend of his. And the friend was surprised to see him because for some time he had not seen him. And he had come to know from others that this person is converted to Christianity. So curiously, eagerly, his friend asked, hey, come on, I came to know that you got converted to Christianity. Good, great. Tell me, where was Jesus born? This person said, I don't know. Okay, tell me, where was he crucified? Yeah, I don't know, was the answer or reply. At what age was he crucified? Again, he said, I don't know. How do I know all these things? And then he said, what is this? Okay, let me ask one last question to you. How many apostles Jesus identified? He had not heard of the term apostles. So he said, I don't know. The friend was disappointed. He said, how little you know about Christ to be called a Christian. I feel it is ridiculous. I feel it's ridiculous that you are a Christian. You hardly know anything about Jesus Christ. Then this person said, yes, I don't know much about Christ, but this I know. I was a drunkard and used to drink every day, go home late in the night and beat my wife and children. I never created peace at home. I never used to love them or take care of them. But in the last 3 months, ever since I became a Christian, I have not touched alcohol. And my family was also kept very happy, was also kept very, very happy. Now they look forward for me. They look forward when I will go back. They are eagerly waiting for me to have dinner. And we have dinner together. My children happily talk to me and play with me before we go to sleep. So much it has changed our lives. For me, this is what is important. What is important is Jesus and his biography is important, or practicing what Jesus preached is important. What is spirituality? Again, I come back to JK, Jiddu Krishnaji. Krishnaji said, what do you do with your scriptures? Throw them away. Because by reading scriptures, if you learn that knowledge and if you don't translate it into your behavior, what is the fun in it? He never said you don't read scriptures. Said probably what's his meaning is a lot of us chant Bhagavad Gita, but we don't even practice an iota of those preachings. This is precisely the reason JK used to say, no reading scriptures, but practice. We all know enough of spirituality, isn't it? Spirituality is so ingrained in many of us being Indians. Being Indians. We have enough spirituality which needs to be immediately practiced. Because spirituality is not theory. It's not constructed on the ivory tower of theoretical principles. What is needed is to walk the talk. All the theories are maps. They are merely signposts. Truth is that which we realize only by inner experience. All these scriptures, all these rituals are just signposts. They are maps. Map is not the territory. Map is map on your page. Map is map in your book. But the real territory is there. Go to the border of Rajasthan, that is the territory, Jaisalmer and Bikaner. If you see that in a map, in a book, it's a map. But unfortunately, we translate the map into territory and we hang on to our signposts. That's why in Zen Buddhism, there's a wonderful saying, the finger that points to moon is not moon. Excuse me. The finger that points to moon is not moon. Although it points to moon, the finger remains finger only. The moon is there. The idol is the God, yes, but it's a signpost. Please understand, it's a signpost. The real God is within you and within others. And the idol is a signpost. Even Ramakrishna Paramahamsa had to transcend the idol of Kalika Devi in his mind in order to arrive at Nirbija Samadhi. He was asked to do that by his own teacher. Truth is that which we realize only by inner experience. We cannot capture truth in our words because language is powerless tool to hold the beauty of truth. You can't. There was a mystic in a village, and the mystic one day suddenly disappeared from the village. For several years, he was not found to be in the village, and people came to know that he has gone into the interior of deserts. He has gone with spiritual sadhana. He has gone seeking God. And he came back to his village after several years, and the people were so happy to receive him. They thronged him and they cajoled him and they asked him. And they started pestering him. Tell us, how is God? How is God? These people want to know how is God second hand. Second hand. That person got fed up. After some time, he said, okay, you do one thing. You come to me in the evening. I'll let you know. So by evening, his house was jam-packed by the villagers who were so curious to know how is God from a second-hand description. The person calmly said, God is inaccurate, inadvertent. God is inaccurate, inadvertent, some kind of a, what do you say, formula. They were all very, very happy. The moment they got this formula, they ran out. All of them got these words inscribed on their on photographs, and they hang the photographs in their veranda and halls and prime places. And whoever comes to their house, they used to give lengthy discourses saying, look, this is what is God. Hardly they had any experience of God. It went to such an extent that they carried the photograph to distant lands and they imposed that God is inaccurate, inadvertent, or whatever it is on those people also. And they said, you need to believe this. This is the formula. This is how the God is. If you don't believe this, we are going to slaughter you. And they started slaughtering the people. And there is a lot of historical evidence for that. And then this mystic felt so sad. What have I done to these people? Why did I give this formula to them? No, this formula became more important than the real God. Fanatics. Fanatics. And then that is precisely the reason why Buddha didn't want to give. Buddha didn't want to give any formula. Because you hang on to formula. See, I'm coming to the last part of it. Spirituality means waking up. Most people, even though they don't know it, they are asleep. They are born asleep. They live asleep. They marry in their sleep. They die in their sleep without waking up. The whole life, they are in deep slumber. They never understand the loveliness and the beauty of this thing that we call human existence because they have not woken up. Then what is waking up? What do we mean by waking up. Somebody asked Buddha, Buddha, are you God? Buddha said, I'm not God. Buddha, are you angel? No, I'm not angel. And Buddha was asked, what are you? It's just that I'm awakened. Buddha could wonderfully say, I'm awakened. Jagavella malagiralu tanobbanedda. When the whole world was in deep slumber, the only person who got awakened was Buddha. But unfortunately, we do not understand what is waking up. Awakening means seeing the larger and deeper perspective of life. We look at life superficially. We don't go to the deeper parts of life. We don't live our life deeply. We live superficially. We don't get connected to something higher than us. Something higher than us which is intangible, immutable, indescribable, eternal. Realizing the truth within and without can happen only when we wake up to the inner call. But it is abstract. All this spirituality, what I said, is an abstract. It is not concrete. Spirituality is an inner experience. I cannot describe or explain it. Words fail. Neither. It's possible. You need to experience it. It happens only when you practice silence and meditation. Spirituality is the recognition and realization of the unity of all life. It is intuitive understanding of oneness of life. Life is one, but it manifests through multitude of appearances. Experiencing that oneness inside is nothing but experiencing the Lord inside. And once you experience it, it's like you make every moment of your life sacred. In the Mundaka Upanishad, Saunaka, a householder, asked the sage Angirasa, "O adorable sir, which is that thing which having known all becomes known?" He asked Angirasa Rishi, what is that one thing by having known that thing, all in the world becomes known? The sage replied, there are two kinds of knowledge, Mr. Saunaka. Number one, the higher called as the Paravidya, the lower called as the Aparavidya. Paravidya is the spirituality by which we understand the totality of reality. It discovers the within of the man and the cosmos. Paravidya is the higher Vidya. It is nothing but the discovery of self, realizing the inner truth. It is realizing the Lord insight. It is nothing but integration of personality with individuality, or we call Dehatma with Jivatma, and Jivatma with Purushatma, and Purushatma with Paramatma. Multiple levels of integration. There are some existential questions which spirituality answers. Who am I? Ramana's fundamental question. Who am I? What is this cosmos? Who created it? What is my role in the cosmos? These are called existential questions. Why questions? Why questions and what questions cannot be answered usually by science. Science answers the question how the universe works, but science does not answer the question why the universe works. Why the universe works? There's a limitation for science, but spirituality is beyond boundaries. It's limitless, whereas religion has a boundary. Religion has a boundary. Spirituality is boundless. Awareness, acceptance, and surrender are the three essential virtues are tools on the path of enlightenment. Please follow this formula. Yes. Acceptance, very difficult, but possible. Awareness, being totally present in the moment. Surrender, which is total. If these three you keep simply practicing, the trick to practice this is to begin with a prayer. What is a prayer? Oh Lord, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. You can't change everything in life, but please have the courage to change the things which you can. And please carry the serenity to accept the things which you cannot change. And know the difference which is changeable and which is not changeable. With this, I place a short anecdote to you and conclude my lecture. This is a Sufi story. This is the Sufi story of Shams-e-Tabrizi. Shams-e-Tabrizi tries to narrate his own story. It is an eye-opener to us. Usually spiritual people are weird. Spiritual people many times appear bit weird, different, and they have their own characteristic features. And at times we people consider they are insane, but in fact they are not insane. We are insane. Sai Baba was considered as insane. But no, he was not insane. We are insane. So Tabrizi says, some people who are serious spiritual sadhaks behave very differently from others and rest of the world as they live deeply, because they don't live superficially. This Sufi saint narrates his own story and says, I have been considered a misfit right from my childhood days. No one seemed to understand me, and my own father once said to me, hey, come on, what are you, man? You are not crazy enough to be pushed into a mental hospital, nor you are so much withdrawn that I can put you into a monastery. What shall I do with a guy like you? You are not so insane that I can throw you into a mental hospital, nor you are so withdrawn that I can put you under a guru in a monastery. What do I do with a person of this kind? Yes, seriously, spiritual beings are like this. So with that, he gives this narration. A duck's egg, duck, please mind, a duck's egg was put under a hen. And the hen didn't know that it is duck's egg. The hen continued giving warmth to the egg. When the egg hatched, the duckling came out and walked with the hen to the edge of a pool. So the duckling came out of the egg. And there are so many other chicks of the hen. Along with the chicks of the hen, this duckling also started walking behind, the natural instinct, thinking the hen is the mother. The hen was strolling around, and these chicks along with the duckling were also strolling behind. And suddenly the hen came to water edge. The moment water edge came, the duckling just jumped into the water, straight into the water, and began swimming. The poor hen could not understand what is happening. It stayed anxiously clucking on land. Come on, what is this? None of my chicks are able to swim like this. So what is this happening? It's because a duckling has come out of a hen. Not in reality, but the hen, without its knowledge, has given birth to the duckling by giving warmth to the egg. Many times, people of that kind are born in different families. They are spiritually evolved, and people consider they're mad, they are insane, they are not totally in mental health and they are weird. But in reality, they are the people who are advanced than us, spiritually evolved than us, and they see the world from a different lens. So, what I like to stress here is each one of us is spiritual by nature because the spirit which gives life to everybody resides even within us. Meeting that spirit inside, integrating with the spirit inside, engaging in a dialogue with the spirit is perhaps the most important task that we need to begin. And if that has to happen, Viveka and Vairagya are very important. Let's start adopting Viveka. What is right, what is wrong? Vairagya, detachment to worldly things and turning inside. With this, I end my lecture. Thank you very much for patient listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nagesh. That was wonderful talk. And we have some time, so we will open it up for questions. Is that okay?
Please, ma'am, please.
Okay. If there are any questions, kindly unmute yourself and ask Dr. Nagesh your question.
Dr. Nagesh, good evening. It was a very wonderful talk and so many references to so many authors. Thank you so much for that.
Good
You know,
evening.
you does that esoteric practices and all that will not lead you to spirituality. But for people like, say, beginners like me, you know, who are not too much into these kind of things, don't you think this is the path for us, or you think we should stop the ritual or the puja part and then?
Ma'am, I agree with the question. I agree with the question that you are placing in front of me. And let me try to elaborate the issue. What I said is, it's not spirituality. It is just esoteric religion. If you hang on to it, most of the times that's what happens. We mistake that as spirituality. And we never try to discover ourselves. We try seeking God elsewhere rather than within ourselves. The inner transformation doesn't happen. So it becomes an obstacle on the path. But at the same time, I like to say, obstacle is the path. An obstacle is no more an obstacle the moment you realize that obstacle is the path. There is a wonderful Zen saying, obstacle is the path. Probably your esoteric religion is an obstacle and it is the path. Realize that it's an obstacle, but in reality, it is a path. When will it become path? If you consider that, it is something which you should not hang on. Please don't hang on. The true spirituality is beyond that. It is beyond all those practices. But for a beginner, all that is important. All that is important. Have I answered your question, ma'am?
Yes, thank you so much. We can't be rigid, and we have to try and find like a stepping stone. Thank you so much, doctor. So nice.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Kindly unmute and ask. Ramesh?
Yes, Sajani, I have a question. Dr. Nagesh, first of all, very happy to meet you again after a long time.
Same here, Mr. Ramesh. Same here. I'm happy to see you here.
Yes. And you spoke about awareness. You spoke about 2 points. You said awareness, surrender, and what was the other point? I missed that.
Acceptance.
Acceptance. Okay.
Awareness, acceptance, and surrender. They're all interlinked. They're all interlinked. Instead of understanding them as discrete entities, they can be considered. One can facilitate the other one. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, that was my question. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions? Kindly unmute.
To Uma here, Uma Pai here. Hi.
Yes,
Good evening,
Uma.
Dr. It was a lovely talk, of course, and this repetition of that surrender, acceptance, that is the one thing which has really helped me, and the serenity prayer. I mean, that really saw through all my life difficulties so far, being a single mother, going through cancer, going through diabetes. I just applied these words, and they somehow took me out of a lot of why me, what for, things like that. It was a really journey of inner journey, I can say that. And being on this universal program of AA and Al-Anon, they're also the same 12 steps. They repeat the same thing: accept the things you can, and courage to things you can't, and that you cannot change anyone else in this universe except yourself. So I think what you meant also as an acceptance and surrender made lots of sense to me. It took me back to like 25 years back when I started the program and started accepting not only myself, my own shortcomings, but in others also. Accept, don't criticize. Each one, my grandmother used to say, all the 5 fingers in one hand are not the same, right? All my 3 children are so different. I cannot say they all are born with to me, but each one is different. So what happens? Each one I have to deal with them also differently. So I think that is how we grow spiritually, because when you start accepting, and of course surrender goes with acceptance, as all of us know that. Unless you surrender, that anyata sharanam nasti bhava comes. I don't know whether we really get spiritually enlightened, because we need to accept that there is some higher power, whatever you call Allah, Rama, Krishna, Guru, whatever. But there is something higher power. And now, as we are seeing nature is really shocking it to us because we didn't respect her. We didn't bother about her. We cut the trees, we do a lot of things, climate change, everything is happening because man thought that he was supreme, that he is one, but it is not so still. So your talk took me back to a lot of my own life and my own experiences in life. And thank you very much for taking us through the journey of spirituality. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
ma'am. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
any other questions?
Yeah, Dr. Nagesh, this is Arun Kulkarni this side.
So nice, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah, just I wanted to ask you because your talk, as far as my intellect is concerned, because this is a talk, this is academic session, what I feel could understand is that you have collated so many, quotes or certain academic these things from the Zen, Buddha, JK, and everyone. I want to understand what have Dr. Nagesh juiced out of all this, and do you have anything to talk from your own experience which is not quoted in these are all books?
Okay,
I'm done.
so it's a wonderful question. As I said earlier, these books are not spirituality. Again, the books give you the knowledge, but getting stuck with the knowledge, there cannot be any transformation. I realized it at one point of time in my life, and that doesn't make me stop reading books. I'm a voracious reader, but the books started turning me inwards. And as I started turning inwards, I started questioning myself. What am I doing in this life? Who am I basically? See, this who am I is the question which used to come to me right from my childhood. Especially when you go to my bathroom and try taking bath, I used to ask this question, who is this fellow who is inside this body? And what's he doing there? And how long is he going to do? How long is he going to stay there? So that natural question used to arise many times in me. And the books turned me inwards. And I experienced something called as law of synchronicity. The law of synchronicity clearly says that you get the right people, right incidents, right things at right time in your life, provided you have turned inwards. And I got such people in my life. I got such books in my life. And I had to face such kind of incidents in my life. And as of now also, I'm facing such incidents which are turning me inwards more and more and more. And recently I got retired from Dayanand Sagar College of Dental Sciences as Professor HOD, but they took me back as Professor Emeritus. So I'm Professor Emeritus of Research and Development Wing. They created a wing in the dental college called Research and Development. And I have been assigned to take the task of being Professor Emeritus there. And I said I can work only for 2-3 days maximum in a week. So the circumstances have brought me to such a position that I have time now. And I have right people who have joined me in this journey over a period of time. And right kind of incidents are happening in my life which are pushing me from understanding that this pushing me through this process of transformation, I can say. And I have experienced a part of it. I don't say that I have experienced truth. I definitely don't admit that, but I'm on the path. I admit that I'm on the path, and my path was created by me, because there is no ready-made path for any person. The person has to create the path. The person has to create the path. The master is there to guide you, but the path needs to be created by you. So it's a lot of insightful sessions that I have spent, satsangs that I have delivered, satsangs that I have attended, the incidents in life that I have gone through, the hardships that I have faced, the errors that I have committed, the blunders that I have gone through, and the right people who came across at right junctures in my life have certainly made me turn inwards, and this process of turning inwards is probably accelerating. This is my own experience, and that's how I could speak with so much of confidence when I was speaking. Thank you very much, sir. Have I answered your question?
Some extent, yes, Dr. Nagesh. Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you, Dr. Nagesh. Are there any other questions? No more questions? Okay, if that is the case, Ramesh, I request you to kindly propose a vote of thanks, followed by the prayer. Loka Samasta.
Thank you, Sajani.
I thank everybody for patient listening.
So, Dr. Nagesh, I was so happy actually to even see your name. Last week, I was wondering if it was the same Dr. Nagesh, and it was. I've known Dr. Nagesh for many years now, and I remember the first time when I saw him, I thought he was a very stern person in appearance. But when he spoke, and especially over the satsangs at Ananda and study circle, I experienced Dr. Nagesh as a very loving and warm person, actually. And also, sometimes when he talks, I used to find that it was almost soporific, you know. But at the end of the talk, I realized that it wasn't actually kind of, a sleepiness, but rather it was a stillness within that came up. And repeatedly, I experienced during his talks that the silence within was becoming stronger. So thank you so much for that effect that you have on us, Dr. Nagesh. And to sum up what we did today, I think was a continuation of that theme. The topic today is, of course, what is spirituality, and I think you summed it up very well in the beginning itself, where you said whatever brings inner transformation in you is spirituality. And it is not spirituality if it does not perform this function for you. So I mean, I could resonate whatever we have all experienced, I'm sure would resonate with what you're saying, that spirituality is not the same for everybody. It can be different people get transformed after different experiences. It could be a deity, a book, a person, or a place. And rituals is only the skin which you need to crack to get into the spiritual experience. And you spoke about the characteristics of a of a spiritual person as a person being equipoised, equanimity, total acceptance, calm, peaceful, devoid of inner conflict, which I think is very important. Inner conflict with self, with kith and kin, the world, and so on. So only a person who is pursuing sadhana of some sort can be at peace with oneself. And I think that really is the crux of people experiencing spirituality. We have to put in the effort to practice some kind of some habits or some practices which support our inner self to grow, to become the presence of the inner self to become stronger. So that's why going to the places of worship is less important than inner transformation. So how we live our life, how we relate to others, and how we relate to the God within is the key indicator. And there was a very humorous quip when you said praying on his knees and later praying on his neighbors is the example of a hypocrite. And I think a sincere spiritual person really practices what he believes. I think this is really a key takeaway for us here at the School of Ancient Wisdom, that as we keep practicing spirituality, we experience each other and the world in a new perspective, and that'll be perceived. That the transformation will be perceived. So the spirit of the soul inside is a speck of God. And that is a very powerful statement also that stood out for me. It is not theory, and we need to walk the talk. So it happens when you practice silence and meditation to experience the oneness within. And the way to do that is through acceptance, awareness, and surrender. And yes, some spiritual people will appear a little unusual and may be a misfit into society, which is to be expected when we consider that most people are not really on the path, and they may not be observing, may not be operating from a higher level of consciousness. So the finger that points to the moon is not the moon itself, and the deity is a signpost, the real God is within. So really, I think the essence behind all this is acceptance, awareness, and surrender. And that spirituality is something that transforms you from within. So on that note of gratitude, let us all sit straight with our back, neck, and head aligned. Let us connect with each other to that God within. There is just one source, one Lord that we're all a part of. Let us all pray for each other, also for our communities, for those who are needy, who have, during this pandemic and war times. Let us pray for higher wisdom to prevail as we do the Loka Samasta. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Brahmarpanamastu.
Thank you, Ramesh. Thank you, everyone, for being with us. I'd like to tell you that we have Manjari Agarwal, who will be talking on hypnotherapy next Thursday, same time. Kindly do join us, and also tell all your friends about it. We have all these satsangs every Thursday, so we'd like all of you to, be present at 6:30. The last weekend, we have Swami Chidananda, who is holding a workshop at the School of Ancient Wisdom. For more details, kindly ask Swati, who will send them to you. Okay, this is on 3 Upanishads. We have 2 Swamijis who are talking on the last weekend of this month. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, Dr. Nagesh. That was a wonderful talk. And we look forward to meeting you next Thursday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramesh. Thank you for
Thank you,
that
Ramesh.
wonderful conclusion and summing
Thank you,
up.
doctor.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Dr. Nagesh. Thank you so much.
Namaste. Namaste. Bye. Good night.
Good night.